Hey there, what's up? Today I want to talk about the biggest misconception in the Agile world. Agile is actually quite well defined. The Agile Manifesto says there are 4 values and 12 principles. Nonetheless, a lot of people do interpret it in their very own way. And that's why there's one very, very big misconception that harms any kind of Agile environment or any kind of Agile transformation. And I would like to talk about that today. Specifically, I would like to give you 3 very measurable actions that you can do starting today in order to avoid this misconception. If you're new to this channel, I'm Daniel, and I'm talking about all things Agile, specifically the Agile mindset and collaboration in all types of organizations like startups or corporations. So if you're interested in developing an Agile mindset and just improving your environment regarding that, please consider subscribing and hit the bell icon so that you're informed about all new videos that come up. Today I'm in Munich's English Garden because I would like to talk about one of the most agile and organically developed organizations that has no hierarchy whatsoever. Additionally, I would like to talk about the biggest misconception of Agile. And I would like to start doing this by talking about the why. And the why is quite simple. Organizations would like to avoid mistakes. And that kind of makes sense, right? If you do something that is a little less than ideal, or actually maybe a mistake, so to say, then you don't want to do it over and over again. You would like to learn from that. But the solution is usually that organizations love to put in rules and regulations. It's like, hey, next time you do this, please do that first. Or if you do this, you have to get approval here and there. You're basically creating bottlenecks, or in other words, you're creating bureaucracy. And most people, when they think about bureaucracy, they don't think about, yeah, that's awesome, that's great, let's do that. They rather think, oh no, I have to do that. And that makes sense. Bureaucracy is there because you have to do that. It's not because it's fun to do, because it's most useful to do, it's because you have to do it. And the best example that I have that explains so well why bureaucracy is so harmful comes from William J. Donovan in 1944. He was the head of the US Office of Strategic Services, which is the predecessor of the CIA. And he wrote a field manual for simple sabotage. That manual explained a lot, like how you can blow up bridges and do other harmful things like that. But there was one section at the end, and that was day-to-day businesses. So this manual was dropped across the enemy line, like in Germany, so that people who sympathize with the US and their allies have something that they can do to support their allies. And there was a section at the end, this day-to-day businesses. It explained how people could actually harm every business. It doesn't matter whether those business was related to the war or not. What they wanted to achieve is a rift in the society, among the people, that they are just less happy where they are right now. And thus that more people might sympathize with the US and basically, harm the German forces from within. And what this field manual explained was 12 principles that everyone can do to harm every organization by implementing and enforcing bureaucracy, so that basically there is a high hesitation to any kind of change or improvement for that matter, and that everything will be talked to death before anything happens. That was the idea behind that. So what they knew already in 1944 as the bureaucracy kills productivity. And therefore, you should avoid establishing any kind of bureaucracy in your organization. So have as less rules and regulations as possible. And nowadays, within the organizations, it's even worse than that. Because rules and regulations are usually, or quite often, not properly documented. That means knowing them becomes an asset. And only members who stayed with the organizations for quite a while have all this knowledge. New members of the organizations, or members who would like to increase their own value for the organization, they spend their effort now learning those rules and regulations and then enforcing them afterwards, rather than developing the product or the service that the organization is supposed to do. So the effort of the most valuable resource, your members, is not going into what provides the revenue. According to the Agile Manifesto, Agile is 4 values and 12 principles. And from my perspective, the most important value is the first one: individuals and interactions over processes and tools. But in most organizations, either hierarchy defines how members are supposed to work together, to collaborate, or it is an outside consultant who comes in and tells them, hey, if you use this framework, then you will be agile. But this can't work, because every framework essentially is just a set of rules and regulations. So every framework essentially is just bureaucracy. And each organization is different. Every member of the organization, of the team, of the people who are actually executing a process, they need to be heard, and they need to decide how exactly it's supposed to be. Because only then you value the individuals and the interactions among them more than the processes and tools. Only then you are actually agile. So the biggest misconception is that there is a best framework. As soon as you hear people discussing whether safe is better than less, extreme programming supersedes lean, or Kanban is better than Scrum at scale maybe, this is already not agile anymore. Because then you value the processes, the rules and regulations, more than the members who are supposed to use them. Keep this in mind, and please don't do this mistake. So what can you do to avoid those mistakes? It's rather simple, right? Just define some values and principles and tailor all your processes and frameworks accordingly. Nothing easier than that. Maybe, yeah, there is. So I would like to give you 3 things that you can actually start doing today. It doesn't matter whether you run an organization, or you are a director of a division or a team, or whether you're just a member of a team. Everyone can start doing that. Step number 1 is write down all your rules and regulations. And yes, if this becomes a hassle, if this is too much, that's a good sign, because you seem to have too many. Second, cluster those rules. See if they have something in common, so that you can make a principle out of them rather than keeping them individually. Keep in mind, most rules and regulations are there because something bad happened once. And you can only avoid that something similar can happen in the future if you make a principle out of them rather than keeping it as a strict rule that is limited to this one specific case. And third, invite your members. Ask them and give them the decision power. Everything documented, all the rules, regulations, is it all there? Do they all have access to that, or is it somewhere hidden and only a subset of members have that access? Are there more principles that can be established because of that? And are those principles actually good? Do they help? Are they beneficial or not? Those are the 3 things that you can actually do every day, starting today, in order to improve and ensure that you don't run into this biggest misconception of Agile. Once again, keep in mind, there is no the right framework, there is no the best framework for an organization. It is always tailored according to the needs of the members. And now let's see one of the most agile organizations that we have in Munich. So this is the famous Eisbach Wave. And surfing already happens here for decades, but it's only legal for about 10 years. And although it's legal, there is no rules or regulations. Nobody's taking care of them. Those surfers actually need to self-organize and need to see that everything works out. They all have the same goal. They all want to surf, right? And they want to avoid mistakes. They want to avoid that something bad happens, because then the state could shut it down rather quickly. So how do they do this? They have some principles and values behind that everyone tries to follow. But if you come here on Sunday morning 5 a.m., then maybe those are not that important, because there are only a couple of people here. And these people who are here need to self-organize and set up the environment so that they can have fun all together. And it does work out for decades. This is why you don't need rules and regulations in place. Some principles and the general attitude of trying to achieve the same goal is more than enough. So if you like that video, please hit the like button. If you want to see similar videos, subscribe and crush the bell. And if you want to know more about this or any other topic, please leave a comment. Have a great time!